Okay guys, so here is example 2. We're going to use trig ratios to find the side lengths. So it says use trigonometric ratio to find the value of x in the diagram, round to the nearest 10. So they're not going to really tell you like, hey, you need to use sine or cosine or tangent. You actually have to figure out yourself which trig ratio we have to use. So this is where our Sohcahtoa comes into hand. So anytime you have to do these problems, write out Sohcahtoa. So that's what we're going to do for our example 2a. So I'm going to put out Sohcahtoa. So we need to use the information that they give to us here. So notice the angle they give to us is 29. We have to use that because remember, we only use the acute angle, which is going to be less than 90. Now, let's figure out these sides and how they relate to our angle. Okay, let's look at this 18 here, right? It's right next to the 29. So we think about things about being right next to, wouldn't that represent adjacent? Yeah, so I'm going to put adjacent. Now notice the x, that is across from the 90 degrees. Remember, anything across from the 90 degrees, that is what we call the hypotenuse. So we see adjacent and hypotenuse, which trig ratio are we going to use? Well, the one that says A and H is going to be our cosine, okay? Because we have A and H, and that represents adjacent and hypotenuse. So now, let's go ahead and do that. We have cosine, we do of the angle, which is 29, and then we do the fraction. So we do adjacent, which is 18, over the hypotenuse, which is x. Now remember, we are going to create a proportion. And so in order to create proportion, we need to make that cosine of 29 a fraction. And in order to do that, we are just going to put it over 1. So now we're going to cross multiply. So I have x times cosine of 29 equals 18. Now my next thing that I need to do is get x all by itself. Notice we're multiplying, so the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to multiply both sides by cosine of 29. This cancels out. Now this is where we are going to have to use our calculator. So remember, I showed you the strokes of how to do tangent. It's going to be very similar of how we do cosine. Okay, so we have 18, so I'm going to put 18, then divided by. I'm going to do parentheses. Now, where we went to for tangent, we're going to go to the same place. So go down, if you're using the graphing calculator, go to x to the negative first, that row, and you're going to see cos. That's going to be our cosine. Now we put in 29, and we need to finish it off with 2 sets of parentheses. And then we press enter. So now we have 20 point, and I think it said we round to the nearest tenth, so that is 1 decimal place. So that means, notice that there's an 8 after the 5, so we need to round up. So we're going to do 20.6 here. And that would be our side, that value. Okay, let's go ahead and do the next one. Now, if you want to, go ahead and actually pause the video and try part B on your own. Okay, let's see what you got here. So once again, I have to rewrite Sohcahtoa. Every single time we have these type of problems, write out Sohcahtoa. Okay, so now I need to look for the acute angle they give to us. 42 is that acute angle. So remember, that is less than 90 degrees. Now, we need to figure out the sides. I see my 90 degrees here. Remember, anything across from the 90 degrees, that's going to be our hypotenuse. Now, I see x. That looks like it's across from the 42 degrees. Since it's across, that represents opposite. So notice I have O and H, or opposite and hypotenuse. Well, the only one that deals with that is going to be our sine, because it has O and H, opposite and hypotenuse. Okay, let's set this up. So I have sine of, please make sure you use your degree they give to you. It has to be the degree. Then we do the sides. So we do our opposite first, which is x, and over the hypotenuse, which is 52. Now we need to do sine of 42 and put that over 1 so we can make a proportion here. Now I cross multiply. So I do x times 1, which is just x, equals, now I have 52 52 times sine of 42. So let me show you how we're going to put this into our calculator. So here, we did not need to divide by anything because we already got x to be by itself. It's already isolated. So for this one, we're going to do 52. We're going to do times. So go ahead and do the times. Then we're going to do sine, and then we got to do a 42. So I got to do 42, and then parentheses. So remember, sine, cosine, and tangent, they're all in the same row on our graphing calculators. Scientific, it might be the same, but you might have to look at your calculator itself. But you should see SIN for sine, COS for cosine, and TAN for tangent. Okay, press enter, and we get 34 point. Okay, we have 7, but notice the number after it. It's a 9, so we need to round up. That's going to be to 8. So we have 34.8. So that's going to be our answer for example 2B. Okay, so if you have any questions over 7.6, make sure you contact me and make sure you work on that homework assignment. See you guys later.